Presiding Officer, on the question about the Scottish National Investment Bank, I am sure that everyone across the chamber will understand that I am not going to go into the confidential details of anybody's employment situation here in the chamber. This issue is not a matter for Scottish Government ministers. It is a matter for the board of the Scottish National Investment Bank. Ministers had no input into that, although we were told earlier in February that the Chief Executive would be leaving the bank imminently. What is the responsibility of Scottish Government ministers to ensure is that the bank is performing well, and the bank is performing exceptionally well. It is perhaps the most important economic initiative that has been taken over the past few years in Scotland. And as of the end of January, the Scottish National Investment Bank had completed 13 investments, totalling just under £200 million since its launch, supporting companies across its three key missions of net zero, place-based development and innovation. The bank is doing incredibly well, and the Scottish Government, and I think all of Scotland, should continue to support it in those efforts. Douglas Ross.
The First Minister has used this opportunity to explain how well the bank is doing in the vital work they are undertaking, and therefore I think it is important that this Parliament knows and the public in Scotland know why the Chief Executive resigned so abruptly earlier this week. We've heard from the First Minister that she was given advance warning of that last month, and therefore I have to ask, why are we not finding out in this Parliament? This week, repeatedly, Scottish Conservative MSPs have asked why Eilidh Mactaggart, the Chief Executive, resigned. Not once did we get an answer, and again today the First Minister has refused. This bank will eventually be in charge of £2 billion of public money. Therefore, I think we are entitled to know about the leadership, because this secrecy and shutting down scrutiny is completely unacceptable. How can the First Minister and her government have nothing to say about why the person running that organisation has left? The ministerial code states, and I quote, "Information should not be withheld from the public unless there are clear and lawful reasons for doing so." Are there clear legal reasons for hiding this information from the public, or will the First Minister now tell us while the Chief Executive stood down?
First Minister. I would have thought the answer to Douglas Ross's question about the terms of the Ministerial Code should have been obvious. The bank's Chief Executive is an employee of the Scottish National Investment Bank. The bank has a duty of care to all staff, including the former Chief Executive. That is why it is a matter for the board of the bank, and it is important for everyone, including Scottish ministers, to respect that confidentiality and that duty of care. What is important is that, given that the Chief Executive has resigned, and I think it is important to make this point, that the bank has new interim leadership in place, and the bank continues to perform extremely well. I've already outlined the scale of the investments that are being made by the bank, supporting businesses all over the country to help us meet the missions of making Scotland a more innovative country, of completing our journey to net zero, and of ensuring place-based development to help some parts of the country have better, faster economic growth. So that's what matters to this Parliament, it's what matters to the Government, and at any given time it is vital to be clear that the bank has the leadership in place to ensure that continued progress. Douglas Ross.
There's questions about the leadership of the bank that we're not getting answered by the First Minister. She is telling us a lot about the bank and the importance to Scotland and Scotland's economy and to this Parliament, but like her ministers is refusing to give any detail on why the Chief Executive resigned. And I think that is extremely unfortunate when we come to this Parliament to get answers from the First Minister and her government, because the timing about this is all very suspicious. The Chief Executive of Scotland's National Investment Bank resigns just days before the SNP launched their own economic strategy, a strategy that's wafer-thin, underwhelming and watered down by the Greens. It sums up a government that's out of ideas and out of any vision for creating Scottish jobs and growing our economy. This plan is more of the same. It even recycles productivity clubs from Derek Mackay's economic plan. And it's been criticised by business leaders, including Sir Tom Hunter, who described it as a long wish list with no magic wand. is it really a coincidence that the Chief Executive of the Investment Bank has resigned instead of trying to deliver this new strategy?
First Minister.
Yes, it is a coincidence, and that is clear. But can I, on the issue of the former Chief Executive, the former Chief Executive of the Scottish National Investment Bank is a private individual. She has opted to resign her post as Chief Executive of the bank. She is entitled to the duty of care and the confidentiality that any other individual in her circumstances would be entitled to. And it would be completely wrong, and I think most reasonable people would accept, it would be completely wrong of me in the chamber of the Scottish Parliament to breach that confidentiality. What I have a duty to make sure about is that the bank has the right leadership in place and can continue to build on the excellent progress that the bank is making across its 3 missions. That, I think, is what is important. And in terms of the economic strategy published by Kate Forbes earlier this week, perhaps I just need to quote some people on the front line of Scotland's economy. So Tracy Black from CBI Scotland: business will welcome the ambitions set out as the right path for Scotland's future economy. Or Liz Cameron, Scottish Chambers of Commerce: businesses will applaud the scale and ambition set out in the strategy.
First Minister, sorry, if we could just ask you to pause for a moment. There's conversation going on across the aisles, and I'd be grateful if that could cease. First Minister.
Or Ewan MacDonald-Russell from the Scottish Retail Consortium: there is much in this strategy the retail industry can support. Andrew McRae, Federation of Small Businesses: the headline measures in this strategy could help Scotland realise its long-term ambitions. So that's what people out there working in Scotland's economy think. We'll continue to work with them as we continue to support recovery from COVID and make sure that the Scottish economy is living up to and fulfilling its enormous potential.
Douglas Ross.
I have to wonder, when the First Minister reads out these quotes, if they were similar supportive quotes when Derek Mackay issued many of the same points in his economic plan and previous economic plans, because the fact is this is a retread of many of the issues and ideas that were put forward by the SNP before. But the first part of the answer was quite telling from the First Minister, because she has confirmed to Parliament that there is no direct link between the Government's economic strategy launch and the resignation of the Chief Executive of Scotland's National Investment Bank. Therefore, she knows why the Chief Executive did resign. If she knows that's the reason why she did, that's not the reason why she resigned. And First Minister, we're just asking questions because we need answers, and it may be uncomfortable. And the groans from the SNP may be because they don't want these questions to be asked, but it is the job of opposition in this country to raise serious concerns when they come.